Welcome back to the Yellow City Rundown for the week of February 9th through the 13th. At our first segment at the top of the Panhandle this week, we're going to take a look at what you missed this week at Amarillo City Council. We're going to look at some updates regarding the fire near Amarillo Lake and near North Hughes Street. And we're also going to talk about what the Amarillo Public Health has said about the non-negative H5 cases in local birds. For our first story today, we're going to look at what you guys missed at City Council. So the City Council this week talked about Netflix alcohol sales. They were going to talk about street and sewer renovations. However, that got tabled during the Tuesday meeting. And we also were able to talk about the future Interstate Highway Formula Program and some other issues regarding that. Let's take a look at a quick video to get a full picture about what you guys missed this week.
At the next Amarillo City Council meeting, council members will consider an ordinance issuing certificates of obligation.
According to the notice, the certificates of obligation will go toward renovating streets, alleys, culverts, and bridges. That story is part of our Democracy 2026 coverage tonight. An opportunity for the City of Amarillo to complete public works projects with funding through certificates of obligation.
People want to plan in advance. So what we want to do is we want to take that, put it into practice, go ahead and get support from council on it. Then we wouldn't have to pay for it until next year's budget, which means we would go ahead and start budget discussions to account for that additional revenue piece that would need to cover that debt service.
Stanley says the funds could address a number of projects, including streets, water, and sewage.
Osage Street, one of the hardest hit roads. We had a complete overhaul over there for some of the water and sewer. And so that infrastructure that was done in there, we held off on ever updating that road. So we really need to get to that road. Today, they said it's around $18 million to replace that.
Councilmember Don Tibbs says a concern coming from constituents is how council is working to pass the CO. But by doing it this way, Tibbs says it'll be built into their upcoming budget.
We don't have the tax dollars to just go out and pay cash for those items, but we've got that CO, much like the use of a credit card, that we can say, hey, let's get it now, but we do have the revenue to make that payment, and then we can set that payoff date. We know what it is. So if it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that can roll off. And then the great thing about that is now that's in our budget, now we can go out and do that again for another project.
Stanley says they are also gathering and getting preliminary cost estimates for the project.
The next council meeting is scheduled for February 24th. At the next.
All right, and that was a great clip to get a rundown about what you guys missed this week. We had the full agenda posted on myheadlines.com if you go back to that story. Looking at our next story for today, the Amarillo Fire Department has released some updates regarding the Monday grass fire that was near the Amarillo Lake and North Hughes Street. The fire resulted in an injured firefighter, according to the Amarillo Fire Department. And according to the Public Information Officer, Jason Love, at this time, they do not have an exact cause. However, I know that they have said that the fire marshal is investigating for arson, but they're continuing to investigate as of right now. Let's take a short clip on what else they have found regarding the grass fire.
The Amarillo Fire Department releases a conscious report on the Wild Horse Fire.
Texas A&M Forest Service has the fire at 100% containment with 60 acres burned. AFD says they were called to the fire just after noon on Monday. One firefighter was injured, treated, and transported. They report no other injuries. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. We're following reports of another fire, this one in Oldham County. The Texas A&M Forest Service is calling this the Hot Green Fire. It's located on Highway 385, just north of Vega. It's reportedly burned 38 acres and is listed at 80% contained.
And we have a full story from the updates regarding the huge grass fire in Amarillo this week, and also other stories of other fires throughout the Panhandle and the Oklahoma Panhandle and some in New Mexico. And we also have, in that full story about this fire specifically, we do have more information from what AFD has given us regarding the fire. For our next story, we're going to talk about a story follow-up from last week. the Amarillo Public Health announced that they were testing some birds regarding bird flu, and they confirmed this week that non-negative cases were found in local birds. Non-negative is meaning a highly likelihood of highly pathogenic avian influenza. They submitted 18 samples from birds to test for the presence of bird flu, and I believe around 12, I believe. You'll have to go back in our story on myhealthplans.com to make sure on that. I believe they tested non-negative. The birds in Amarillo area testing in the way that shows H5 in the system. In that case, means likely that they may have had some type of bird flu, even though they may not fully confirm cases of a specific kind. Let's watch a short clip regarding this entire situation.
After nearly 500 birds were collected across Amarillo this month, several have tested non-negative for avian influenza.
Thank you for joining us. Fox 14's Blas Guerrero has more details on the latest update and what this means for the public. That story is first on Fox Tonight.
Amarillo Management and Welfare and Amarillo Public Health says they continue responding to reports of sick and dead birds across Amarillo, with multiple birds now testing non-negative for H5. Since the beginning of the month, crews have picked up hundreds of birds, though only a portion were submitted for lab testing.
Non-negative just means that we've sent off tests to the lab and it's come back. The term they use, non-negative, which just means it's highly suspected that that animal had avian influenza. So they're telling us that that it's highly suspected on their end, and we just treat it as a positive.
Vernon says while lab confirmations at a national level can take up much longer, local departments act immediately once results come back non-negative.
So from our lab that we use in Canyon, TVMDL, it's always going to be a non-negative. To get an actual positive, it has to be sent to the national lab, which could take months to come back because they are the overall authority for that. So that's why we just treat the non-negative as it's highly suspected, but we also treat it interdepartmental and as a public health department kind of as a positive.
Officials say most cases are reported by residents who notice dead or sick birds in their neighborhoods, as well as high concentrations of waterfowl. Vernon says there have been no reports of pets showing symptoms tied to avian influenza, but they are urging caution.
I would just isolate that animal from your other animals if you can. Keep a close eye on it, observe your animal for any abnormal conditions, like once again the same thing as birds, they kind of abnormal conditions like hesitation to move, sneezing, seizures, all of that, coughing, sneezing.
Public health officials say the overall risk to humans remains low, but residents should avoid direct contact with sick or dead birds and report them as soon as they can. Live in the studio, Blas Guerrero, Fox 14 News, Maya Clint.
Blas, thank you. Officials say they will continue testing birds as needed and monitoring the situation.
Health officials stress the best way to stay safe is to avoid handling wildlife and keep pets leashed in areas where birds gather.
And that was like a short clip regarding bird flu in our area. We do have a full story on the situation and also symptoms to look out for in pets and other various cases. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll go into our Panhandle Planner of the Week. And welcome back. We are looking at our Panhandle Planner for the week. We have a few light events this week, but as always, please keep an eye out on myhealthplans.com for more stories that come out through the week. So some main ones are some holidays. Valentine's is this Saturday. The Lunar New Year is on Sunday. And there is expected to be a Route 66 press conference on February 20th that we will be streaming. So keep a lookout for that as well. Looking into our Route 66 rewind for today, I found a pretty sad story from February 13th, 1926 in the Amarillo Daily News. There was a plane crash that happened on, I believe, this day or days surrounding it, and 2 Amarillo youths had died in the plane crash. They were also attended with a Tulsa oil man. The airplane had fell 300 feet and tailspin and into 2nd and Madison. So it was a pretty sad story, but also pretty interesting. Looking at our weather watch for this week, we're looking from Chief Meteorologist John Harris. And he said this week that we're starting off with on and off showers are expected this weekend. However, Sunday is going to return to sunny. And that's it for this week's Yellow City Rundown. As always, please look out for myhighplains.com and also this main story for mine to get those direct links to all the stories we talked about today. Bye, guys.